What's up guys, Omni here. You guys know how it goes, another day, another video. Last night I tweeted I sleep. What recent news, topic, tweets, videos you want me to talk about tomorrow? So guys, one of the largest political streamers on Twitch, Hasan Piker, was banned yesterday for saying this.
There's about $50 billion estimated that are lost every year in Medicaid, just in fraud alone.
That fraud is not coming from individuals, it's coming from providers. They're not tackling providers. They're not actually going after like false billing. They are trying to cut recipients. Okay, if you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. Okay, the reason why I'm saying if you cared about Medicare or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott is because, and not make him a prominent part of the Republican Party, is because he to this day is still also known as committing the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history.
So yeah, that's Hasan twice saying that, yeah, someone should kill a Republican senator. Hasan then replied on Twitter to his own ban saying, hey, I'm sorry, I'll choose my words carefully next time and say, quote, if Mike Johnson cares about Medicare fraud, since he wants to cut $800 million from Medicaid and Medicare, he'd call for max punishment for current Florida GOP Senator, former Governor Rick Scott, who has done the most Medicare fraud in U.S. history. He then linked to an article that reads, Rick Scott tries to rewrite history on $1.7 billion Medicare fraud controversy, highlighting this specific statement here that said in 2003, Rick Scott's company, Columbia/HCA, the largest private hospital chain in the U.S., was found guilty of defrauding Medicare. The company was forced to pay $1.7 billion, a settlement that was the largest medical fraud fine in U.S. history at the time. Scott, who was the CEO, left the company with a $10 million severance package after the scandal. In a 2010 campaign ad, he admitted the company made mistakes but pledged to take responsibility. Most of you guys probably already know this, but in case you guys don't know, Hasan Piker is a bit of a buzzword nowadays. He has one of the biggest polarizing audiences that you can think of, having a very large audience who supports and loves him and, you know, whatever he has to say, and a very strong audience who hates him and suppresses him and wants him to be banned on Twitch for constantly breaking the TOS on Twitch's platform but never being punished. Just so you can get a look at some of the public sentiment going both sides, okay? You got even Hasan himself replying to his own thread saying, big shout out to the right-wing free speech lovers who took time out of their day screaming about DEI and immigrants to cry about this. Mike from PA saying, no one actually thinks you were making a threat. They are just clutching pearls because they want to censor everyone who isn't on the far right. Another person saying, no one is going to convince me that these are not targeted attempts at Hasan because he's on the left and talks about Palestine. This person here saying, if you were a right-winger, you would have been fine. However, his critics, one of them being Nicholas Diorio, saying, yo, Hasanabi is one of the largest terrorist supporters in gaming spaces. His continued behavior and lack of moderation by Twitch has contributed to an advertiser problem on the site. 24 hours where Hasan can't promote ship hijackings is a blessing to those gaming spaces. Another trending post here coming from Azihara saying it only took multiple terrorist propaganda videos. Multiple times he highlighted terrorist actions as a positive, multiple calls inciting violence, using his audience to brigade things, thousands denouncing his actions on social media, a Democrat filing a complaint to multiple videos from other content creators calling his bad behavior out, multiple instances of him breaking TOS. So since he can't stream on Twitch, it looks like he's taken to both TikTok and YouTube. He made a video called I Got Cancelled. Came out 8 hours ago, a little bit after midnight ET, and has already got almost 500,000 views.
What's up, everyone? If you're seeing this, that means I've probably been banned. That's right. Cancel culture has finally come for me. Oh my God, it's over. It's over. The free speech warriors. Where are you now? They've taken me out, ladies and gentlemen. It's over. I'm done. A couple days ago, I had a conversation where I was responding to the Republican House of Representatives Speaker, and I said some things. Let's take a look at what I said.
I'm already showing you guys what he said, so we'll skip that part and go to the next.
I want to make it harder for people to receive Medicaid. They don't want to actually go after medical providers or the insurance companies or the nursing homes that are lining their pockets with major donations. Those are the people who actually engage in the fraud. It's not your uncle that's like lying about their condition and stealing money from the government by, you know, going to the doctor or whatever. Okay, so obviously I shouldn't have used hyperbolic language, and there's definitely some ownership that I must take. Some apologies there. I should not have said Mike Johnson should kill Rick Scott. I should have simply said Mike Johnson should punish Rick Scott, perhaps with the, you know, maximum punishment, whatever that would be, for defrauding Medicare and Medicaid for over $1.7 billion. Now let's talk about the things that he did.
So yeah, Hasan essentially saying like, yeah, I should not have used that word. That was not right of me, and taking accountability for that. Anyway, I've already watched the full 18-minute video. I'll give you a quick TLDR. After Hasan clarifies that his words were not meant as a literal call for violence, but rather a critique of the Republican Party's hypocrisy on Medicare fraud, he started talking about Asmongold, a popular Twitch streamer who reacted to the situation and accused Hasan of promoting violence. Hasan then argued that Asmongold failed to seek the full context before making his claims, and that the right-wing media figures deliberately misrepresented his words to push for his ban on Twitch. Hasan later then pointed out the double standard and how actual political figures like Senator Tom Cotton have openly encouraged violence against protesters without facing similar backlash. He then reaffirmed his commitment to using more precise language in the future, but warned that reactionary forces will continue to try to take him down due to his progressive stance. He then ended the video saying that he promises to be more careful with his words and that he'll continue to fight for the issues that he believes in. In terms of sentiment of the video, it looks like the video is sitting at a healthy 66,000 likes compared to 5.5 thousand dislikes. I'm actually surprised with that. I thought that'd be cut in half, maybe because the video's too early, but yes, more people like the video than not. And in case you're wondering how Hasan's biggest hater, H3H3, is basically reacting to this information, here's a clip right here that might put things in context for you.
Yes, these people are bad and they should be punished adequately, but it's more speaking to the ethos, the culture that exists in Hasan's community of they're very violent and they want violence. They wish for violence. You saw the same thing. I showed a montage and the content nuke of like every big prominent leftist streamer saying somebody needs to kill Destiny. The only one was punished was Mike from PA, who said, if anybody's in Florida, I've got $100,000 for you. Talking about Destiny.
As you can see, Ethan Klein basically being happy with the fact that, yeah, Hasan is finally being banned. Point out to the fact that he believes that the Hasan community is radicalized and a lot of people wishing for death and they're pretty violent is what he claims, even though he does not seem to dissent against the whole concept of Hasan bringing awareness to the fact that there was this guy who was basically participating in a $1.7 billion settlement when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid fraud. This now, however, unfortunately brings us over to CDawgVA. That's right, from Trash Taste. We talked about him and the group last week because Hasan had appeared on a podcast. It's an anime podcast where they talk about anime, and yeah, the video didn't do so well in terms of people coming into the comments. Some people felt like the comments was basically being brigaded by Hasan haters. Other people felt like, hey, why did you bring Hasan onto your stream? Okay, he's a bad dude. It just happens to be one of those situations where if Hasan comes into your space, well, so does his community and so does his anti-community, right? It just, it all follows. There's a clip here you guys sent me here from CDawg saying Connor talks about the brigading in last week's Trash Taste episode.
A lot of people were accusing me of deleting comments. We're not deleting comments, we never have. YouTube has auto moderation, so naturally if you put the word terrorist in a comment, a lot of the time YouTube is going to flag that, because why wouldn't they? You know, and there was some of the comments were kind of crazy. You know, some of the language was inflammatory, and they're like, why is my comment being deleted? And they said like literally like the 5 key words that would get you banned. One other thing that I noticed is that when I looked at the comments, and I'd scroll, and I don't know what's happening here, and I don't know what exactly is happening, but I would literally see comments, you know, because I was watching the comment feed from the back end, right? So from like the admin side, that some comments would appear. There were negative comments, which is fine, I don't care, that would have 10 likes within like 1 second, which I thought was like, huh. Because on YouTube, the most important part of a comment's lifespan is not if it gets to 5,000 likes, it's if it can get a lot, like a 10 to 20 likes in the first like 10 seconds, because that's what will bump it up. I don't know what's going on there and how that works, but that was a thing. So to kind of suggest that if you can make a comment and it is getting like 10, 20, 30 likes within like only a couple of seconds, is kind of hinting to the fact that he feels like there's a lot of people from Hasan's community or the other community as well leaving comments, and then basically everyone upvoting a specific comment, which he's considering calling brigading. One other also thing that I noticed that I will just mention very briefly, I'm not going to get too much into it, is that there was obviously a lot of bandwagoning on it because people were, you know, loving it and people don't like Hasan. And so people were jumping on it and making videos about it. There was a lot of stuff that people said that was just flat out not true, and people were just making stuff up. Some people were saying like, oh, they didn't have this guest on. They said they were too controversial, but they had another guest on. That's never happened. That's just a bunch of lies. So I don't know what that was about. There was also the only things that were disappointing from me, my perspective as well, that like really, I was like, man, what the fuck? Is that people would then make whole narratives based around, because we had X on, that we then couldn't criticize any other creator. We couldn't, you know, they were like, oh, you know, these people have changed. They're horrible, yada, yada, yada. And that was like, oh, okay, that sucks that people are just making assumptions, but not a big deal. But yeah, no, I mean, look, the reason why we didn't address it right away, we wanted to wait, was because a lot of people were, you know, they were just demanding things. There were a lot of comments that were like, you need to delete this episode. Where I feel pretty confident in saying this, where if you ask Trash Taste viewers, do you want them to delete the episode? I think most viewers are sensible. They would say, hey, even if I don't agree with this episode or I don't agree with this one, I wouldn't want you to delete an episode. You know, I think that's crazy. Now,
so yeah, it's interesting, just pausing for commentary's sake. But again, this is the curse that is Hasan. I think Asmongold and a couple of the people have been talking about it as well, but I continue to say is that yes, wherever he goes, he leaves a trail of both his allies and his enemies. And depending on what you say, right, you will get backlash for one or the other, right? It's going to be damage, right? Because yeah, Hasan has a huge history of things that he has done, some people believing very good and some people believing very bad, right? So that collective polarizing front of two different audiences will always be coming in and following this guy, and like I just said, basically damaging anybody in his way. So one of the narratives being spun by Connor right here, sorry for the freeze frame, is basically, if you bring Hasan into the show, then do you support Hasan? Do you support all the things that he's done? Connor, did you hear everything that he's done, that he's ever said, all the bad things? And if so, then why would you bring him on the show in the first place, and why would you platform him? That's what some of the commentary that people are saying. Other people saying like, hey, you can platform Hasan without also 100% supporting Hasan as well. Some people are trying to kind of look into it and see if they're like close friends. And then even then, people are trying to speculate then based on who you associate with, what is your political party? It gets very parasocial. It gets very messy.
Also, I want to make it very clear as well, in case you're watching this on YouTube, that because this is no doubt going to be a clip, that I'm sure that there's a good chance the comments, you know, might get taken over depending on how big this clip is. Please think for yourself. Please don't just read top comment and form your opinion based around that. Obviously, you're all adults. I trust you. And what I really appreciated is that a lot of Trash Taste fans did seem to be just tired of people picking a side and being emotionally charged about it, and we're kind of just like, hey, maybe it's not for me, all good, next episode. Or hey, I don't engage with this, I'm done. So I appreciate a lot of the sensibility in this, because I think, look, we live at a time where everyone is so emotionally charged, and there's just so much rhetoric and so much, you know, everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got a side. And so I appreciate that people sometimes can have a sensible approach to it. I think what you will always get from me is never a clear-cut answer. You will always get an argument that I try to be as sensible as possible, and I try to consider all sides. And I'm not like a centrist or anything like that, or whatever, or any fucking thing like that. The reason I don't talk about my political opinions online is not because I don't have any political opinions, it's just because I just think that the online space does not get anything out of me talking about it. There's nothing to engage. I don't think it provides any value. I just hate France, and I think that's a fair opinion.
This brings me back to a video that I made a long time ago on my YouTube channel. If you search hard enough, you will find it. I essentially titled it "Why I Hate Politics," because the whole concept of politics is basically like the separation of people, like distinctly, where it leaves little room for nuance to actually get to specific answers. It's usually here or there, and those are the loudest points. And the people who are trying to, you know, figure things out here in the middle are basically being drowned out from those loud noises. And it's pretty annoying when that's the case, where just the radical sides are just shouting so much that you just can't hear what's actually being talked about. The problem though also is that when you talk about politics, or if you say you don't like politics, or if you say you don't want to speak about politics, then you are now becoming political. That was another part of my video as well. that by not choosing sides or by choosing the nuance, right, someone will go, okay, this means that you are affiliated with this specific political party or on this side, if, you know, even if you don't want to be a part of it. It's a catch-22. It's one of those situations where just by talking about politics or speaking on it or giving a non-opinion, you are now suddenly being pushed into a bucket, because that's what the internet and people like to do, is categorize you, and not into like nuance or into multiple buckets. Okay, they want to put you in one, you know, big one, you know, so that they can just label you as an ally or an enemy. That's it. Ally or enemy, get out of my face.
But, you know, at the end of the day, I feel that the internet would be a lot better off if some people just knew how to shut the fuck up. And that's kind of where I stand. And so I'm of the opinion that, look, I think I'm an informed guy, but I also recognize that the internet doesn't benefit from me sharing my opinion. And it's okay also to not have an opinion. I think it's also okay to not give a fuck, because I think it's kind of fucking exhausting right now. And look, you don't always have to be on 24/7. I think you can tackle it at your own way. You can tackle it in a way that you want. But, you know, I was inevitably going to talk about this at some point anyway, just because I wanted to talk about it as well. I didn't feel pressure to talk about it at all, but I thought there's a lot of interesting things to discuss, and I'm sure I'm going to look back at this clip and feel like I should have said 10 different things differently. But I think the underlying point is the same. Of like, look, to the Trash Takes fans that are disappointed, sorry, you know, it is unfortunate. Are we going to delete the episode? No. If you did you unsubscribe? Okay, I apologize for that you felt the need to unsubscribe. But at the end of the day, you know, there was we did not estimate what would happen. And then there's like a million drama channels that jump onto it, and it's like, okay, this is just, you know, it went from being the opinion of actual Trash Taste fans to very quickly becoming the opinion of like certain groups who would just kind of rally around it.
Okay, so yeah, his concern is that people took the context of putting Hasan in the YouTube video and then basically based their own opinions on the set of hosting of Hasan, most of it being negative in nature. And here's the second clip that's been trending of Connor talking about the situation. I believe in this one he talks about distancing himself from Hasan and potentially banning him from future Trash Taste episodes. Let me find out.
You know, I told Hasan as well, I was like, hey, look, the show is not political. We don't want to deal with politics. You know, we're most likely not going to have you on again. No, and that's not like anything like, hey man, you know, it's just like, look, we don't want to fucking deal with politics. I think the Trash Taste viewers also don't fucking want to deal with intense fucking comments. It sucks to read. People just getting fucking upset as shit about it. And I know some like fans of Hasan will be annoyed about that. But you know, I just told them, I was like, look, at the end of the day, we don't want to invite like a fucking shit show to the comments. And I think it was ignorant on our part to think that if we just didn't talk about politics, that it would stay out of it. Because that was our thinking, you know, because we already had him on once and it was fine. But some people were angry about it. But yeah, I mean, it was ignorant on our part to think that, you know, if you didn't talk about politics, it wouldn't matter. But yeah, you know, a lot of things have changed in 2 years. I don't keep up with what's going on.
So it's important to kind of understand in this specific situation is like, we are in the era of politics, okay, with the Trump administration and everyone, even me, are trying to keep you guys in the know of what's happening when it comes to politics. That's how important it has become. That's how sensitive it has become. And with all of these policy changes and things in place with the Republicans taking over, then yeah, a lot of people are now talking about politics, and a lot of people are a lot more sensitive to the issues that are happening because a lot more things are at stake. A lot of it's happening, okay? It's not like, you know, we have new Republicans in office and things are normal, okay? Everything is changing like crazy. We have Elon Musk out here doing things as well. So it's huge, it's big. A lot of people have a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings towards it. So when you bring on somebody like Hasan or someone like Ethan Klein or someone like Destiny or like someone like Asmongold, who have had a lot to say about a lot of things when it comes to the political space, you will be bringing a lot of that energy with you as well. So it's unfortunate, but you can't really bring certain people onto your show without, again, as I continue to say, the energy that they've always had with them.
You know, I get all of my news from the BBC. I don't go on Twitter. I uninstalled it. You know, I think all of us were kind of blindsided by it. So it was kind of, you know, a lot of people like they're out of touch. I'm like, I guess, like, I think that's safe to say if this being in touch is living on Twitter and engaging with politics 24/7, because we just don't do that. We've never done that. I think that it's unhealthy. I feel like the level of vitriol is almost like at a point that is so like toxic to everyone involved, that I have no wish to engage with it.
So yeah, guys, that's everything that's occurred since the Hasan ban. All right, you have the ban, you have his reply, you have him talking about Mike Scott and the Medicare, Medicaid fraud. You have Ethan Klein dancing on his grave temporarily. You have Connor and Trash Taste, who've suffered collateral damage from having on the platform. And then you have Connor CDawg coming up here and saying how he feels about the situation. In my opinion, I think this whole controversy surrounding Trash Taste and CDawg and Hasan as a guest is a good example of how difficult it is to navigate discussions in today's online political climate. There are multiple sides to this issue, and while each person has valid responses from their own perspective, the way the situation unfolded highlights some really huge challenges and basically addressing criticism in such a polarized space. First, it's important to acknowledge why people are upset. Whether you hate him or love him, you have to understand that Hasan is a very divisive figure, not just because of his politics, but because of his style of discourse, his past statements, and the way that he engages with his critics. For those who strongly oppose him, his presence on Trash Taste was an endorsement, intentional or not. Hasan's supporters argue that the backlash was largely driven by brigading and people having a different ideology, rather than the actual issue with the podcast itself. From Trash Taste's perspective, and probably, hindsight now, this was a mistake and a miscalculation. Connor's response, essentially saying they prefer to ignore controversy and let it fade, might work for some situations, but in this case, it may not be the best approach. I think therein lies the reason that some people may have felt upset, is that they feel like their concerns were dismissed. At the same time, okay, giving an opinion in this political climate can be a bit tricky. Any statement can be interpreted as picking a side, even if it's not the intention. I feel like this creates a situation where trying to engage in good faith can essentially always backfire, making neutrality almost impossible. TLDR, Hasan's haters saw the Trash Taste episode as an opportunity to reject his influence, and his supporters saw the backlash as evidence of targeted attacks, and Trash Taste found themselves caught in the crossfire. Do you understand Connor's frustration? There is a lot of vitriol energy out there that you can just catch strays from just existing in this space, okay? So I get why he would want to stay away from it so badly. It's just that, yeah, when you bring on the big dog Hasan, then it's going to happen no matter what. That's got to be something that you got to know that's going to follow. Because when it comes to Hasan, there's too much dip on that chip. You can't just have casual encounters with Hasan without essentially creating more vitriol energy, because that's kind of the energy that he has created for himself in the political space. I mean, that's my opinion in a nutshell. Okay, I don't think CDawg is a terrible person by any means. He's done nothing but fun and great and wholesome things when it comes to the VTubing space and charity and Iron Mouse and everything like that. He's a super net positive for the internet, so I don't think that he needs to be crucified for hosting Hasan. But also the people who are upset about the situation, I'm sure that they're valid, and the people who are upset on the other side, they probably have some valid points as well. Again, the nuanced discussion between Hasan is so far gone that it feels like it's impossible to actually take place. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if there is a place where, people who are pro Hasan and people who are anti Hasan have actually sat down and had a conversation. Has that happened? Has that nuance been created yet? Has anybody tried to start that debate? Because right now it just still feels like extreme views and points being pushed, and it's losing the actual nuance and the justified reasons why people feel certain ways. We're losing the plot, it feels like sometimes. I think this is a bit of a tricky situation to kind of navigate, but I think it all comes down to is there are valid criticisms from both sides. I think that's kind of what I have seen when we're talking about radical views and radical views. I think there are people who are trying to have a discussion to say, hey, there are justified claims as to why they don't like Hasan. And then other people are saying, hey, I have justified claims as to why I like Hasan. And again, that argument in the middle is not having too much, but we can't make opinions based on the people who are screaming the most absurd things, right? You just cannot make opinions based on the biggest, loudest, most radical people, because they don't speak for the entire party. I'm gonna find that nuance in the sea of just kind of ad hominems, where people aren't actually explaining the reason why they feel things, can be pretty difficult, because you can't actually get the truth or the understanding of why people feel the way that they feel Because there are some people who are only just trying to push agendas. I like to think that we can somehow have conversations, and maybe that's me being a little bit naive, but there's got to be a way to objectively talk without telling people that they have to die, right? I think that we can all agree, like maybe we just shouldn't do that one. I'll catch you guys later. Y'all take it easy. Peace.